Probably my favorite thing about this is that it's not overly sweet. Hey friends, I hope your week is off to a great start. Today we're going to be trying out another recipe from Claire Saffitz's cookbook Dessert Person. This is her Almond Butter Banana Bread. So it's hard to believe, but I just passed a milestone I didn't even know existed. It's been 1 year that I've been in quarantine, so not necessarily a happy occasion, but it did make me kind of nostalgic for the early days of quarantine that were so much simpler, when we were all making sourdough bread and banana bread, whipped coffee, drinking wine, having Zoom calls with friends, and everything was fresh and new. A year later, it feels a little bit different, but banana bread is still delicious, so that's a win. Super excited to try this recipe out. Thanks to everyone who's been requesting this, and without any further ado, let's get right into it. This recipe is super approachable because you don't need a stand mixer. We're doing everything by hand. And so to get started, we're gonna do the almond butter swirl that goes on the top of this banana bread. So here in a small bowl, I've got some smooth almond butter. I'm using this variety from Imperfect Foods. I did a full review on Imperfect Foods kind of toward the start of quarantine. I'll link it here so you can check it out. If you haven't been on lately, they do get new products in frequently. This almond butter was a new addition, and this was like $5. Typically a jar this size would be closer to 10, so it was a really great value. They also had some new chocolate chips that were like super dark chocolate, as well as some chocolate wafers. I've got my referral code in the description box down below. If you sign up, I think I get $10 and you get $10, so something for everyone if you're interested in trying them out. To the almond butter then, we're gonna add in our granulated sugar, along with some coconut oil. I'm using organic unrefined because I do like the coconut flavor. However, if you don't like coconut flavor, get the refined version. It's basically the same thing, it just has less of a noticeable coconut flavor. And we'll just quickly stir this together to get it evenly combined. So we can set this aside and move on to the dry ingredients. Here in a large bowl, I've got my AP flour. To that, we're adding baking powder, kosher salt, cardamom. If you don't like cardamom, cinnamon would be a good alternative, or you could just skip this entirely, and some baking soda. And then we'll whisk this to combine. So we can set this aside and get the wet ingredients ready. To start the wet ingredients, we're doing our bananas. So the recipe calls for 2 large bananas. These are, I would say, more like medium-ish size. So I want to weigh them out just to make sure that I'm getting the right amount. And it was almost perfect. So I'm going to mash the banana up with a fork just to get it nice and smooth. All right, and I like the way that looks. So you can see it's definitely soupy and broken down, but I do have a few small lumps in there. I personally like to have a few lumps in the bananas because I like having little bits of banana mixed throughout the banana bread. However, if you want it totally smooth, by all means, smash it up a little bit longer. So here in a medium bowl, I've got 2 eggs. These are cold from the refrigerator. And we're just going to whisk this to get those yolks broken apart until we have a homogeneous mixture. All right, so that looks nice and even. Next, we're going to add in our granulated sugar. And I'll whisk this for about 30 seconds, just until the sugar's incorporated and the mixture has thickened and lightened slightly. All right, so that looks a little bit thicker. The sugar seems incorporated, doesn't seem overly gritty. So now scraping in the mashed bananas, along with our full-fat Greek yogurt, the rest of our almond butter, and the rest of our coconut oil. And finishing with some good quality vanilla extract. And we're just going to whisk this together to get everything evenly incorporated. All right, so that looks nice and smooth aside from the banana lumps that we planned on having. And to finish, we're just going to pour the wet into the dry. And I'm just going to gently whisk this to get everything evenly incorporated. And you can see the texture here. This mixture has gotten super thick. Claire does give the option to add in coarsely chopped almonds. However, I don't care for almonds in banana bread. I think they're too crunchy. I'm even on the fence about walnuts. So I'm going to skip that. However, if you like that crunchy texture in your banana bread, just go ahead and add it in at this point and just fold it to get it combined.
Here's what you do. You just fold it in.
Okay, I don't know how to fold broken cheese like that.
So the last thing for us to do is pour the batter into our prepared bread pan. I've got it greased with coconut oil and lined with parchment paper. And the final finishing touch here is to add the swirl. I've got our prepared almond butter topping. I'm just going to do small kind of teaspoon-sized blobs of the almond butter mixture just across the top of the banana bread. And then using a dinner knife, we're just going to do figure 8s across the pan to get that almond butter swirled across the top. And with that, we're ready to pop this into our preheated 350-degree oven for 60 to 70 minutes until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out cleanly. Our bread baked for exactly 1 hour. I let it cool in the pan on a wire rack until it reached room temperature, and this is the end result. You can see I've got a little nub of banana that's hanging out there, a little bit of swirl action on the top. You can see it really well on the full loaf. One thing that I wasn't expecting is that the almond butter swirl that we put on the top of this is still almond butter texture. So it actually has a little bit of a gooiness to it. For some reason, I was expecting that to bake. In retrospect, it makes sense that it didn't because it was just almond butter, oil, and sugar. This looks absolutely delicious. It looks really, really soft. The aroma on this while baking was incredible. So super keen to give this a try. I'll do a little break just so you can see what the texture looks like. Pulling this apart, it's very tender. Mmm. I like the crispiness on the top. That's really nice. The almond butter flavor comes through really well. The cardamom taste is not really coming through very strongly. There might be a little bit of like a hint of warmth in the background of the bread, but if you're not a cardamom fan, you're not going to be bothered by this. Alternatively, if you are a cardamom fan, you might want to double up. The texture on the outside of the bread is so nice. That coconut oil really gave us some nice crispiness. You can see we got a nice golden brown color on the perimeter, and it's nice and even all the way around. So really like the way that this baked out. Probably my favorite thing about this is that it's not overly sweet. So Claire in general, I think, does a really good job with having things that aren't too sweet. And this is perfect. It's a slightly savory banana bread, but it still is sweet enough to make it feel like a little bit of a treat. It's definitely solidly in the bread category for me, though, as compared to Molly's banana blackout bread, which was all the way over here in Cake Land, where I don't think we could even really call that a bread because it wasn't related to bread in any sense of the word. So overall, really happy with the banana bread. If you're in the market to try something new, or you want to just have a flashback to these simpler times of early quarantine, by all means, go ahead and make this. Not a lot of special ingredients, and it came together in only about 25 minutes. So hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, please be sure to give me a big thumbs up and click subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.